songs can fly on the airwaves. They just need a chance to start. Purple songs can grow and hope and faith and fly from heart to heart.
Did you know Purple Songs Can Fly? Welcome to our program, produced by the Children in Treatment at the Texas Children's Cancer and Hematology Centers. Our program is about great music made by some terrific young talents. Now, here are the hosts of Purple Songs Can Fly.
Thank you and welcome to the program, Purple Songs Can Fly, on the Voice America Kids Network. I'm Zack Tavlin,
I'm Emily Freeman.
and today we will be talking again with Dr. Scott Parazynski, otherwise known as the most interesting man in the world.
Yes, totally.
And if you have not heard our previous show, the show we just last did, we actually was also with Dr. Scott and his space flights. So if you like this show, please check it out.
Check it out.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Great to be back, guys.
Thank you again for
Yeah.
coming out. I am so excited to
Yes.
talk today about Mount Everest. So let's just get started with kind of what is your background? Where did you start from? How did you become the man you are today?
Yes,
What was your
and
childhood?
basically, what was your inspiration?
Well, it's an interesting question. When I was very young, I was really inspired by explorers. So the people that I read about were all great explorers. So Jacques Cousteau, Stedman Hillary, Tenzing Norgay, Mallory and Irvine, Sir Roger Bannister, who broke the 4-minute mile, the pioneering astronauts and cosmonauts. So I really wanted to do that, and so I went to college and medical school at Stanford, and one thing led to another, and I ended up at NASA, which is one of my boyhood dreams. But I was always interested in I guess high lofty places. So I like to climb, and I started climbing I guess in my teens when I was living in Athens, Greece. And so I started rock climbing and rock scrambling. And the longer you climb, you try to test yourself on higher and harder mountains and crags. And I spent some time in Colorado for part of my training, so I got into winter mountaineering and more difficult mountains. And ultimately, the ultimate test piece is Mount Everest. So once you've been doing it for a while, everyone wants to check that box, and it's certainly one of the. Well, I would say it's the most difficult thing I've ever done, mentally as well as physically, when I got a chance to climb it.
Wow.
And just to put that most difficult thing I've ever done comment in perspective, some of Dr. Scott Parazynski's titles are medical doctor, astronaut, experienced mountain climber. So climbing Mount Everest was more difficult than astronaut training.
The list goes
all of
on.
your experiences,
The
medical
list goes
school.
on.
Goodness.
Yeah, it certainly was. And I would also have to reflect back on my experience on Mount Everest. It didn't happen the very first summit season I was there. I tried to climb it in 2008 in the springtime, and a bit of a long story. We can dive into it a little bit later on if you'd like. But
for sure.
Ended up on my first try on Mount Everest rupturing a disc in my low back at very high altitude, and having to limp my way down the mountain. And so it was a very painful, very difficult experience. And so to go back the following year after I'd had surgery and really trained even harder, I was able to finally summit. It's when you take on Mount Everest, it's both a physical as well as a mental challenge, and there are voices in your head saying, turn around, this is too hard.
You can't do this, or
You are going to the highest mountain ever.
And so you have to know the difference between good pain and really serious pain, and have good judgment. You have to study really hard, both the technical aspects as well as knowing yourself and whether or not you can continue. So
what your limits are.
Right. That's it.
And just in case you're tuning in, you're listening to the Voice America Kids Network and Purple Songs Can Fly. I'm Zack Tavlin.
I'm Emily Freeman.
And our topic today is one of the myriad of amazing things Dr. Scott Parazynski has done, climbing Mount Everest. So I think it's very important that, and kind of inspirational, at least to me, that you went to Mount Everest, and we will have a later segment talking in detail about your climbs, but you went to Mount Everest, you tried once, and you had to know when to stop, and then you went back again and did it. What would you say kind of drove you to do that?
Well, it was so difficult to turn around that very first time I was there. I was within 24 hours of summiting. I had been on the mountain for 59 days already, acclimatizing.
Wow.
And so I knew physically that I could do it if I was healthy. I knew it was within my technical and other abilities if I was healthy. And so I just couldn't get it out of my system. It was one of those life goals that I knew I needed to come back and finish. And thankfully, I had the opportunity the following year to come back as the physician for a TV show called Everest Beyond the Limit on the Discovery Channel. So there aren't many people that actually get paid to go climb Mount Everest, but I got paid the second time I went, which is pretty fun. Yeah, because it's very expensive if you do it on your own.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh.
Makes it even better.
Yeah, exactly right.
So your successful climb, is that logged on TV records?
It is. In fact, you can see the third season of Discovery's Everest Beyond the Limit.
Okay.
And actually, there's a Sherpa camera tracking me all the way up to the top of the world. It's really a great, great production.
So where would listeners go if they want to see you climb?
You can get it on discovery.com and I believe Amazon. There are places to download it. I think you have to buy the episode, but it's not that expensive like most things these days. So
Right.
Excellent. And so what episode is this? I kind of want to know because I'm going to do this when I get home.
Same here.
So,
Same here.
I think it's the second or third episode of the third season of Everest Beyond the Limit.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Oh gosh, and let's take a break just before we get into the detail, and I'm so excited.
Yes.
I'm Zack Tavlin,
I'm Emily Freeman.
and you're listening to Voice America Kids. This song is actually by you, Emily.
Yes.
I Want to Get Back on Top. And you wrote this when you were 13.
Wow.
Tied down, fed up. I wanna break free again. I wanna get back up on top. Stuck here, shouldn't be here. Wanna break free again. I wanna get back up on top. You can't always do what you wanted to do. You can't always go where you wanted to go. You can't always stay where you wanted to stay. But if you feel chained down, don't let it get to you. Don't let it get to you. Exhilarating, to go. You can't always stay where you wanted to stay. But if you feel chained down, don't let it get to you. Don't let it get to you.
Welcome back to Purple Songs Can Fly. I'm Zach Tavlin,
I'm Emily Freeman.
along with Dr. Scott Parazynski, and you're listening to Voice America Kids and Purple Songs Can Fly. Let's continue with our conversation about Mount Everest. What was your training like to climb the most difficult,
Yes.
tallest mountain in the world?
Well, I would partition the training into a few different bundles, but there's the physical, so you have to be really,
Yeah,
your
in
heart has to
shape.
be, pumping as strong as you can get it. Your muscles, have to be extremely fit. So what I did is I spent a lot of time doing cycling and spin aerobics in the
Right,
gym,
right.
and then I would also go to Rice University to the stadiums there and do stadium steps up and down, sometimes with a backpack, and running up and down the steps, and
Right.
that really got me physically fit. I had been climbing since I was 15 years old, so technically I developed the skills through many, many climbs, good climbs as well as climbs where I maybe got in over my head, and I developed judgment. When you make mistakes, hopefully not too big a mistake, you learn from those experiences, and so you develop a toolkit of skills that allow you to handle inclement weather,
Right. And
difficult
experiences.
Right. So things that if things aren't perfect on the route, you have some backup plans and backups
Right.
to the backup.
Right.
And I had a lot of experience winter camping and handling the cold, and then also the other things that you really need to be a master of, the technical skills and your equipment. So really developing a set of tools and equipment that would protect me in that environment.
Right.
So you kind of a lot of different things go into that culmination of going to Mount Everest. You don't just do a few climbs in Colorado and then decide you're going to
Okay,
go to
done, ready.
Mount Everest.
A week-long training camp.
Right.
Yeah, so I had been climbing in Alaska Range, in the Andes, in the Alps,
Oh, wow.
in the Colorado Rockies, in the Canadian Rockies. So I had a lot of experience built up over many years,
Yeah.
and so I really was ready when I
That's
got the call for
great.
Everest.
And just
Great.
touching on some of your comments, what are some what kind of equipment does one use to climb,
To climb.
a mountain?
Yeah.
Well, kind of, you feel like you're out on a spacewalk on summit morning. So you have a big, puffy down jacket that you're wearing, almost like a spacesuit. You have a huge backpack on your back with an oxygen cylinder and an oxygen mask, like you're out in a spacesuit.
Right.
You have a big headlamp on your head and a helmet, similar to what we have on a spacewalk. Big insulated boots and gloves like we have out on a spacewalk. We have a harness on and a line to a fixed line that gives us safety as we go up the steeper parts of the route. So
Right.
just as we have a tether when we're outside on a spacewalk. So I really felt as I was going out the International Space Station hatch the morning that I set out for the summit. A lot of similarities. The
Almost
extreme
at
cold
home.
and
Right.
Wow.
And you talked a little bit about mistakes. What mistakes, or what's probably the major mistake that you would say prepared you or gave you the experience needed to correct that behavior and helped you on your path to Everest?
Well, two great examples. So I'd spent a lot of time climbing in Colorado over many years, and including some climbs in the winter. And one climb in particular, I was out with two friends, and our ambitions were beyond our skill. I was the lead climber in the group, and so I had to climb every pitch in the lead, so I didn't have any rest breaks. And it was also very time-consuming to pull up two climbers instead of just one. So we were moving
Right.
more slowly than we should have been to make it to the summit and down before nightfall. And We ended up having to spend the night out in the elements without sleeping bags or anything like that.
Oh, wow.
Thankfully, it wasn't too cold, and no one was hurt or anything like that. But it really focused my attention on knowing your team, knowing the route, knowing the your speed, and what you can
And your
accomplish
limits, yes.
in a certain period of time. Yeah, knowing your limits, exactly. And so that was one important lesson. The other is just to study up before you go. And so I had read every book about Mount Everest before I went, including one wonderful book called Into Thin Air by John Krakauer. And if you haven't read it, I encourage you and all of your listeners to read it. But it's one of the most compelling books about mountaineering ever written. And it was about the season of 1996 when a number of people were killed tragically because their ambition far exceeded their abilities. And there were a number of other problems that they had that year. So I used that as my guidebook of what not to do when I climbed Mount Everest.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm very, very sorry that had to happen
Yes.
to show those examples. But it's great that resource is available for climbers now,
Right.
Yes.
to look back and learn from
And to
history.
show them, yes.
And so you decided to climb Mount Everest as the culmination of an experienced climber. When you got to Nepal, what is in the area where Mount Everest is? What was the area like? What's the culture like? Just kind of briefly.
It's a spectacular place. They're Tibetan Buddhists primarily, so they're very spiritual people. It's very colorful. The monasteries and the monks that live and work there. They're very, very friendly people by and large. It's called the Khumbu region of Nepal. Very high altitude. And if you ever get a chance to trek into Everest Base Camp, it will change your life. The scale of it is enormous. As I said, the people are just so inviting and very contented. They have a very simple life generally, but they're not lacking anything. And that we can't say that for everyone here in our society, probably.
That's incredible, and I think it's really poignant as well.
Thanks.
Such an inspiration.
So let's take a break. I'm Zach Tavlin,
I'm Emily Freeman.
and you're listening to Voice America Kids. When we get back, we're going to talk with Dr. Scott more about his experience climbing. And during the break, we're going to have a song by Steven called I Can Make It. And he was 12 years old when he wrote this song. This is my favorite Purple song, by the way.
Lord, I thank you for all you've done and all you say you do. Lord, I thank you for keeping me and all that I go through. Lord, I know you'll see me through because you love me too. Oh Lord, oh Lord. If you say I am healed, I'll be healed. I can make it. If you say I am rescued, I know it's so. I can take it. You have all the power in your hands. Through you I know I can make it. I can make it. Thank you for my family and all they mean to me. They teach me all about your ways and the beauty of your grace. Thank you for your love in me and helping me to see. Oh Lord, oh Lord. If you say I am healed, I'll be healed. I can make it. If you say I am rescued, I know it's so. I can take it. All the power in your hands. Through you I know I can make it. I can make it. If you say I am healed, I'll be healed. I can take it. If you say I am rescued, I know it's so. I can take it. You have all the power in your hands. Through you I know I can make it. I can make it. If you say I am healed, I'll be healed. I can make it. If you say I am rescued, I know it's so. I can take it. You have all the power in your hands. Through you I know I can make it. I can make it.
Welcome back to Purple Songs Can Fly. I'm Zack Tavlin,
I'm Emily Freeman.
along with Dr. Scott Parazynski, and you're listening to Voice America Kids. Let's continue with our conversation about Mount Everest and focus kind of on your experience climbing. So the first time you touch down, you head to Everest Base Camp. What is the first thing one does when they're trying to climb a mountain?
Well, it's kind of a daunting experience to arrive at Everest Base Camp. You've been trekking for about 10 days, and you're surrounded by these beautiful mountains, and you finally arrive in the very thin air of Base Camp at 17,500 feet above sea level. You're living on a glacier. It's rock covered, but it's a moving, creaking, groaning glacier. So it's just kind of a foreign world. And you look, and it's 2 miles vertically above you is the summit of Mount Everest. And a lot of people, they take one look at it and they conclude, there's no way I can possibly do this, and they turn around and they go home. And so that really the only way you can manage something like that is to take a deep breath and say, okay, I'm going to take it one day at a time, one rope length at a time, one footstep at a time, and pace yourself, because it's an endurance game. And so to climb Mount Everest, it's not just about setting off from base camp and progressively working your way up the mountain. Actually, it's kind of stair-stepping your way up. So you'll climb up to Camp 1 at 19,500 feet and spend a couple of nights. And it's very hard that first couple of nights. But then you come back down and you rest for about a week. And then you'll repeat that, but then go up to Camp 2, which is at about 21,000 feet.
Wow.
And spend up to a week. And it's a struggle that first time, but then you come back down and rest for a week or more. And then you'll repeat it and take a trip up to Camp 3 at 24,500 feet.
Wow.
And that's your last major training rotation before the weather window and your summit bid. And what you're basically doing is allowing your body to build extra red blood cells to carry the thinning oxygen in that environment. So you're getting your body stronger, you're building red blood cells, you're getting used to the cold and getting accommodated to the route that you're going to take.
Right. I was going to ask, what are the temperatures up there?
It's a little nippy.
I can imagine.
On summit morning, I think when I was on the summit, it was probably about minus 40.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh.
So, but yeah, in the morning time, right before sunrise is the coldest part of the day. And it's so hard to get out of your sleeping bag in the morning. You have to be really motivated. But we would have to do that, actually, to get through one of the most dangerous parts of the route is called the Khumbu Icefall. And it's this big river of snow and ice, and these big towers of ice that are sometimes 200 feet in height. And so we would have to get through that before the sun would hit it in the morning. So we would have to leave about 4 a.m. in the morning to be through that dangerous section before they started to loosen up and could pose a risk.
Wow.
Actually, every season there are major avalanches through there, and in fact, my second season on Mount Everest, 3 people were buried, one of whom didn't make it out. So it's a very serious place. You have to have
Was
your
that
game
part of your
face on.
climbing team, or is it just
No.
during the season?
Another team and they're climbers, but
Okay.
yeah, you have to move very, very quickly and be very, very dedicated to it.
So
That's
just
a
for a
shame.
sense of scale, you said 2 miles vertically straight up, and I'm having a hard. I was looking out. I know you guys can't see me. I was looking outside our studio at some skyscrapers in Houston, trying to imagine what would be 2 miles just straight up. As a sense of scale,
Probably from here to the Rice Stadium would be maybe one mile, so twice that. No, it's even further than that. Maybe out to the Galleria there.
Wow.
most of the way to the gallery.
This is an incredibly
And
far
back.
distance.
And back.
It's almost
Well, yeah,
at the horizon of where you can see on the 14th floor of a skyscraper. So
Yeah.
this is very, 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 very tall.
What
my
you said was
gosh.
very important, though,
Wow.
Emily. The summit doesn't count unless you make it a round trip. So it's there and back. And a lot of
Right.
people forget that. They have their ambition of just summiting, and then they don't leave enough in the gas tank to make it back down.
To make it down, yeah.
And so-
wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
so are those mostly private climbers that plan their own expeditions? Or?
No, it's just people let their ambition take over their better judgment, and so the mountain has lots of people. Their bodies still reside there because they had only summit fever, getting to the top, and didn't keep enough in reserve to make it back home.
down.
see.
Oh, wow.
So I've heard a little bit about Sherpas. Did they feature in your?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I was so fortunate to climb with Danuru Sherpa from Fortsey, and he was with me every step of the way. I didn't climb as a guided climber. I climbed basically on my own, but part of a larger team called IMG. But Danuru was with me every step of the way, and one of my closest friends. But I would always tease Danuru that he was cheating because he had 3 lungs and 2 hearts. But what's really kind of neat for me is that on summit day, he felt every bit as exhausted as I did. He was completely exhausted at the end of that day. Definitely the hardest thing I'd ever done. He had, when we summited, it was his 12th summit of Mount Everest, though.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And just to before we go to break, what would you say the difference, besides the injury, of course, between your first and your second climbs of the mountain? What would you say the differences would be?
Well, great question. I felt very confident. I knew the people, I knew the landscape, I knew the route, all except for that very last summit day. And I also had the confidence that I physically would be able to do it, mentally and physically, and in terms of my preparation. So I felt confident. If the weather was good and if my health would maintain, I would be able to do it. And the other thing that was really special about coming back to Mount Everest is that the delayed gratification. The fact that I didn't make it the first time, I came back and made it the second time. The reward was that much sweeter
And greater.
Yeah, it
yes.
really meant so much more to me that I fought my way back. It was, twice the suffering, but twice the reward too.
And I think that makes it twice as impressive as well.
Yes.
That one would suffer such an injury, like a ruptured spine,
Right.
and then come
right
back the
and-
next year and
yes.
do it. That really shows commitment and courage.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's take a break. I'm Zach Tavlin,
I'm Emily Freeman.
and you're listening to Voice America Kids and Purple Songs Can Fly. Our next segment, we're going to talk with Dr. Scott about the summit of Mount Everest. And we're going to play a song called Gonna Be Free by Erik. And Erik was 18 when he wrote this song.
These thoughts weigh heavy on my mind. Just trying to get the peace that I can't find. I'm not sure of when it will come. When I try and meet someone in a different environmental space, I arrive in a new place. Anxiety's so heavy on me 'cause I wanna be free of all these expectations the shore when my mind tends to explore all the possibilities in front of me. Let me use this chance to learn new things, experience life, live and be free. Anxiety's so heavy on me 'cause I wanna be free of all these expectations placed on me. Anxiety's so heavy on me 'cause I wanna be free of all these expectations placed on me. Anxiety's so heavy on me 'cause I wanna be free of all these expectations placed on me. Anxiety's so heavy on me 'cause I wanna be free of all these expectations placed on me. Anxiety's so heavy on me 'cause I wanna be free of all these expectations placed on me. Anxiety's so heavy on me 'cause I wanna be free of all these expectations placed on me.
Welcome back to Purple Songs Can Fly. I'm Zach Tavlin,
I'm Emily Freeman.
along with Dr. Scott Parazynski, and you're listening to Voice America Kids. Let's continue with our conversation about Mount Everest itself. I really want to know what the summit was like. There's so few people that have even seen it, and you're one of them.
Yes.
Could you describe for our listeners just what it is, what it's like?
It's an extraordinary little place. In fact, it's about twice the size of this table, and I know your listeners can't appreciate that, but it's maybe 6 feet by 3 feet in its maximum dimensions. It's really, really steep on the Tibet side, and then there's a little bit of a shelf on the Nepal side, and then it narrows down into this very steep ridge line, which is the way that we come up to the top of the world. And it's a beautiful place. It's got these beautiful multicolored prayer flags,
Wow.
Tibetan prayer flags with Sanskrit lettering and artwork on them.
Wow.
And you may have seen these. They're taken to mountain passes and mountain summits, and
Yes.
through the test of time, the wind, the snow, the sun, and ice, they slowly disintegrate, and the prayers are carried up to heaven. That's why they're called prayer flags. And so
beautiful.
the summit is covered with them, and then there's actually a golden Buddha in this little glass case. Some devout Tibetan Buddhist Sherpa had taken this all the way up to the top of the world. That's very strong.
He carried a golden statue.
Yeah.
How big is this statue?
It's not too big. I mean, the case is maybe 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot, but
That would still be incredibly heavy to carry
It's
all the
not
way up
easy.
a mountain.
Yeah, up to the top of the world at 29,000 feet. Not easy.
Gosh,
Yeah.
I'm sure he must be proud of his accomplishment.
I imagine. yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Determined.
And you mentioned prayer flags. I just wanted to quickly talk about. I know you brought some prayer flags yourself up there.
I did.
What was that like?
Well, so I wanted to pay tribute to some of my fallen heroes, and I'm a space explorer, and a number of men and women have given their lives for our benefit in space exploration. So the crews of Apollo 1, Challenger, Columbia, Soyuz 1, and Soyuz 11, astronauts and cosmonauts perished in the line of duty, and so I made 2 very special prayer flags to pay tribute to them. And so I took those flags up to Mount Everest top and installed them there. So those prayer flags are working their way back up to heaven as well.
That's wonderful.
And I also
Wonderful.
took a Purple Songs Can Fly banner, which you may be aware of as well.
Yeah.
Yep, that's up there too.
All right.
Oh my gosh! And thank you for that
Yes,
too.
You're welcome.
Thank
And
you so
I think that's a
much.
really beautiful and moving tribute to those who
Yes.
made the ultimate sacrifice for the benefit of all.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome.
That is so cool.
I kind of suspect the answer to this. How amazing was the sunrise from the top of Mount Everest?
Oh, it's one of the those memories that's etched in my brain. One of the neat things about being an astronaut is you get to see 16 sunrises and sunsets every day. You're going around the Earth at these enormous speeds. So every 90 minutes, you make one full orbit of the Earth, and so you'll see a sunrise and a sunset in that period.
Oh, wow.
But the sun comes up so quickly when you're in space because you're traveling so fast. I really wanted to see the equivalent of an orbital sunrise from the top of the world. And so I arrived at 4 a.m. on the head, and the sun started to come up at 4:05. So I was able to see a full sunrise from the top of the world. I saw the full curvature of the Earth, and it took about 30 minutes.
Wow.
And it was just beautiful. I could see the full spectrum of light, and I felt so fortunate to be up there to see that gorgeous sight.
And how many people have actually seen the summit, if you know? I mean,
there have been about 3,000 climbers who have stood atop Everest.
Wow.
Not all of them have made a round trip, but that's about the number. And then to put it in context, there have been about 530 people who have been to space. So more people have been to Everest, obviously, than to space. But that's changing, too.
And there's still several billion people on Earth, and this has been gosh. That still seems like a really small number to me. I mean, that's a very elite group.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. No, I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to go, and then my family and friends supported me, and my job supported me, allowing me to go do that. Yeah.
Wow.
And I know you were able to bring some Purple songs with you.
Yes,
to
indeed.
the summit of Mount Everest.
Yeah.
So where are they now? Are they at the little shrine, or are they?
No, the banner stayed up on top of the world, but the music made the round trip, and I think they're in the studio still.
That's excellent.
In a beautiful
Cool.
frame. So
That is excellent.
Yeah.
So where are you now in your life? Astronaut, doctor, mountain climber. What is your next goal? How's your family? Are they doing good?
If you even know.
Right now I'm currently in Houston with you guys. No, just kidding. No, so my position right now is actually really fun. So I oversee healthcare in Antarctica for the National Science Foundation. So I do the medical screening for everyone that goes down there to do science and to support the United States Antarctic program. So all the doctors and nurses and other medical technicians that work in Antarctica work for me. And the fun part about that job is that I get to go to Antarctica every once in a while. So I need to take a Purple Songs Can Fly
There you go.
CD down to the South Pole with me next time I go. But that's really been a fun job as well. Lots of places on Earth still yet to explore.
Right.
So how do your wife and kids handle your adventurous, incredible spirit? Gosh.
And your experience.
I'm sure you must be an inspiration to your children for sure.
Well, my son Luke is he's going to be a junior in high school, and so I think he's just a wonderful kid. But I think he thinks that everybody's parents are astronauts, and so he doesn't think much about it. But he actually is most interested in politics and history and things of that nature. And then my daughter Jenna is just a wonderful spirit. She loves to dance and sing, and that's kind of her thing right now. So I don't think what I do has any direct bearing on what they want to do in their life. But
Well, good for them.
You one day you will be a grandfather, and you will be the inspiration to your family as your grandfather was to you, I'm sure.
I hope so.
Yes.
It would be hard not to be with your resume. Goodness gracious, and
yeah.
and he's still going strong. He looks every bit 30. I don't know how he does.
I wish that were true, Zach. But
And so, just before we go, with the kind of recent end of the shuttle program, which you were very intimately involved in, and a huge impact in. What do you see as the future of NASA and space exploration? In your non-binding opinion, I'm really curious for your insight.
Just in the future.
I'm really excited about the future. I think
Yeah.
the commercial human spaceflight companies that are out there, you may have heard of Virgin Galactic or SpaceX.
I have.
They're going to be opening up the door for many more people to get a chance to fly in space in the future, which is great.
Yes.
And then NASA, I think, needs to look far beyond, to return to the moon, maybe to colonize Mars, to look for life there, to look to traveling even places beyond that. So right now, NASA's struggling to kind of figure out how they're going to do these bold initiatives with, shrinking dollars in the budget. But I believe, NASA will continue to lead, and it'll also be an international collaborative program with the Russians and maybe even the Chinese in the future. So I think that's really, really exciting for all of us.
I think it's amazing too. And we've already seen what international collaboration can do with the ISS.
Right.
And with the I don't know what they're, I guess, Canadian astronauts. I don't know if they have a special name, and astronauts from Europe, Latin America, Russia, all coming together to work for a common goal that's very successful.
Absolutely.
And so I can only imagine the future.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again for coming in and talking with us and sharing.
Really loved spending the afternoon with you guys. Thanks for inviting me.
It was a pleasure.
It was a treat for me. Goodness gracious! So just to get inside your thoughts for a while and to experience what you've lived through.
Listen to your stories.
It's amazing. I could do this all day long, forever.
Right.
So thank you so much again for coming in.
Thanks so much, guys.
Such a blessing.
Thank you so much for joining us. You've been listening to Purple Songs Can Fly. I'm Zack Tavlin.
And I'm Emily Freeman.
And you've been listening to Voice America Kids and our interview with Dr. Scott Parazynski. Our final song today will be God Can Move Mountains by Nikki. And Nikki was 12 years old when she wrote this song.
When I think of hope, I see a purple flying angel. When I think of faith, I feel the trust of God. When I think of others praying, I feel confident and sure. Comforted, safe, and loved. Have faith, have hope, 'cause God can move mountains. Peace in your heart and love in your soul. Have faith, have hope, 'cause God can move mountains. I've seen it and I know. Oh, I know. I like to sing and dance and hang out with my friends. I like to go for walks on the beach. I like to watch the sunset and look for shells. Feel the sand beneath my feet. Have faith, have hope, 'cause God can move mountains. Peace in your heart and love in your soul. Have faith, have hope, 'cause God can move mountains. I've seen it and I know. Oh, I know. I survived cancer. I have faith and hope. Have faith, have hope, 'cause God can move mountains. Peace in your heart and love in your soul. Have faith, have hope, 'cause God can move mountains. I've seen it and I know. Oh, I know. Oh, I know.
Thanks for listening to Purple Songs Can Fly. We'll see you again next Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Kids channel. And remember, for more information about the Purple Songs Can Fly project, visit www.purplesongscanfly.org. We'll be back with more music next week.
Purple songs can fly.